Damascus, the ancient heart of Syria, trembles. The echoes of celebration and gunfire paint a chaotic picture. Rebel forces have breached the city's defenses. President Bashar al-Assad now faces the most serious threat to his rule. The world watches as a nation teeters on the brink. The streets of Damascus are now filled with uncertainty. Fear and hope hang in the air. The thud of artillery fire serves as a grim reminder of the conflict. For the citizens of Damascus, life has been a relentless cycle of violence and displacement. The war, which began with peaceful protests in 2011, has morphed into a brutal conflict. Now, with rebels at their doorstep, the people of Damascus brace themselves for a new chapter. The fall of Damascus would be a seismic event for the entire region. It would mark a turning point in the Syrian civil war. The stakes are incredibly high, and the world waits to see what unfolds. To understand the gravity of the current situation in Damascus, one must delve into the roots of the Syrian conflict. In 2011, inspired by the Arab Spring uprisings, Syrians took to the streets demanding political reforms and an end to Assad's authoritarian rule. What began as peaceful protests was met with brutal force by the government, igniting a civil war that has left the country in ruins. Over the past decade, Syria has become a battleground for regional and international powers, each vying for influence in the war-torn nation. Russia, Iran, and Hezbollah have backed Assad, while the United States, Turkey, and Gulf states have provided support to various rebel groups. This proxy war has further complicated the conflict, making a peaceful resolution seem like a distant dream. The Syrian people have borne the brunt of this devastating war. Millions have been displaced, seeking refuge in neighboring countries and beyond. The conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian crises in recent history, with countless civilians in desperate need of food, water, and medical aid. As rebels close in on Damascus, the specter of further bloodshed and suffering looms large. The international community, divided and seemingly paralyzed, watches on, with their inaction contributing to the unfolding tragedy. The Syrian people, caught in the crossfire of a conflict they did not choose, deserve better. For years, the Syrian conflict was locked in a deadly stalemate. However, in recent months, the balance of power has shifted dramatically. Rebel forces, spearheaded by the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, have made significant advances, capturing key cities and towns across the country. The fall of Aleppo in 2016 marked a turning point in the war. Once Syria's largest city, Aleppo was reduced to rubble after years of relentless bombardment by government forces. The city's capture was a major victory for the rebels, demonstrating their growing strength and resolve. Following Aleppo's fall, rebel forces continued their advance, liberating other strategically important cities like Hama and Homs. With each victory, the rebels gained momentum, their sights set on the ultimate prize, Damascus, the seat of Assad's power. The rebel advance has been aided by several factors, including the Syrian military's dwindling morale and the withdrawal of Iranian forces from the conflict. Iran, a key ally of Assad, has reportedly begun pulling back its troops, likely due to its own domestic challenges and the shifting geopolitical landscape in the region. Section 4. The world reacts. Uncertainty and the specter of chaos. The international community has reacted to the rebel advance on Damascus with a mixture of apprehension and uncertainty. World leaders, long divided over how to address the Syrian crisis, are now scrambling to assess the implications of a potential regime change. The United States, while officially supporting a political solution in Syria, has been criticized for its inconsistent and often contradictory policies. President Biden has called for Assad to step down, but has shown little appetite for direct military intervention. The U.S. has also provided limited support to rebel groups, wary of arming extremist elements within the opposition. Russia, Assad's main backer, has condemned the rebel offensive and called for a ceasefire. However, with its forces bogged down in Ukraine, it's unclear how much Moscow is willing or able to do to prop up the Syrian regime. The withdrawal of Iranian forces further complicates the situation for Assad, leaving him increasingly isolated. The potential fall of Damascus has raised fears of a power vacuum in Syria, which could be exploited by extremist groups like ISIS. The international community is also grappling with the potential for a new wave of refugees fleeing the fighting. The situation in Syria remains fluid and unpredictable, with the potential for further chaos and instability. Section 5. The future of Syria. A nation at the crossroads. As the Syrian civil war enters its second decade, the future of the country hangs in the balance. The rebel advance on Damascus has brought the conflict to a critical juncture. The Syrian people face a long and arduous road to peace and reconciliation. The fall of Damascus would not necessarily signal the end of the conflict. Syria is deeply divided, with many actors vying for power. Continued fighting and a protracted insurgency are likely. Even with a settlement, the scars of war will take generations to heal. Rebuilding will require a monumental effort. The international community must provide long-term support for peace. The situation in Syria is a tragedy of epic proportions. It serves as a stark reminder of the human cost of conflict. The world must not stand by idly as Syria continues to bleed. The time for action is now.